What's going on, everyone? Bran here from Bloody Breakdown, back again today to talk some more Texas Chainsaw news. So, before we get into it, as I always do at the top of the video, just do a little whoring, a little shilling. If you enjoyed today's video, let me and YouTube know by leaving it a like. Subscribe and turn on notifications if this channel seems to be your bag. Pretty much anything and everything horror as far as it relates to cinema. And yeah, check the description section, links to Twitter and Patreon if you'd like to follow me or support my work. So, with that said, really quickly, shout out to Rail the Great for being my producer on Patreon. And you could be too by going and supporting at that tier. So, enough shilling, enough whoring. Let's jump into this thing. So it's being called a legacy sequel. The new Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel. That much we've covered on this channel. I've seen it covered elsewhere as well. And, I kind of had an idea of what the title was going to be. And I kind of hoped I knew what the rating was. But we officially know the title of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Legacy sequel that we're getting again because Texas Chainsaw 3D didn't work out so well. Cuz went and did his thing and nobody appreciated it. Yours truly included. But let's get into this. It's something I saw coming, but there's some meat on the bone here to discuss. So this is coming to us courtesy of Dread Central. The article titled "New Texas Chainsaw Massacre Gets Official Title and an R Rating for Strong, Bloody Horror, Violence, Gore, and More." So already off the title, I'll say, based on what we know from just this title, thank you for the R rating. Had that not happened, had you given us a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film that had anything less than an R rating, I have to be honest with you, I'm out. Some slasher films or horror movies, I guess would be a more proper way to say that. You can kind of get away, like, I'm not saying I like PG-13 horror movies, but maybe every once in a blue moon it produces something good. But for this, that's just my opinion. Sure, but for this franchise, for this subgenre, specifically this franchise, anything less than an R rating is unacceptable. This is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. God damn it. So let's read on here. Nice still there of Texas of Leatherface in the original film. So producer Fede Alvarez's, or Fede. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it. I've heard people pronounce it both ways. I'll say Fede. Fede Alvarez's new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie has snagged an official title. Everyone brace yourselves for this. This is some groundbreaking Copernicus shit right here. You ready? Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's the title. And I called this shit a while back when I started getting the idea from the people involved in the project that this was a legacy sequel. We're going to ignore everything that came after the first film and go directly here, like Halloween 2018 did. And I'm going to get to that in just a second. And interestingly enough, the way Texas Chainsaw 3D did. So this has already been done in this franchise, but I think they think that they did it too soon before like Halloween and some of these other legacy sequels are kind of, either already out or being talked about. But that's not the problem. The problem is it was just bad. So if you're going to do it again, make sure you don't fuck up again. That would be my advice, because if you fail at this legacy sequel thing twice, also, let's be perfectly real. The last couple of entries in the franchise were, in my opinion, not up to par. So, I'm rooting for this one to be knocked out of the park. But what we're looking at right now is the same problem you're running into with the Halloween franchise and maybe the Scream franchise now. So I get it. I understand. The whole point of the legacy sequel is you don't have to watch all the sequels that came after the original. Just watch the original and come watch this one. Cut out the middleman, cut out all the work. Just come watch this one after you've seen the original. most people have probably seen the originals of these films. Even more so than just your, I guess, casual fans of slasher films have definitely seen like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I'd say. So I guess they feel like it's a marketing thing, you put a number behind a movie or maybe too much of an intricate subtitle, then people feel like, okay, I need to go watch all this other shit in the franchise before I can watch this. So I get it. I do. But looking at this from a collector's point of view, looking at this from like a franchise point of view, you now have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Texas Chainsaw, the Next Generation. Then you have a remake. Then you have a prequel to that remake. And then you have a legacy sequel. And then you have a prequel to the original. And now you have another legacy sequel. In all this, you have 2 films entitled Leatherface, 3 films entitled Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All right. So I'm just saying it's a fucking mess at this point from like a standpoint of looking at the franchise. And this comes from a guy who, I love the Halloween franchise, but it's got its own share of issues. There are 3 films, just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There are 3 films in the Halloween franchise called Halloween, for fuck's sake. All right. And I know it's nitpicky, and I know it makes these films more money because you get that casual fan or just your everyday moviegoer who doesn't feel like they have to do a bunch of homework before they go see it. I get it. And I'm fine with these franchises making money off that. But I got to tell you, from the standpoint of someone who is like a collector and, someone who likes to look at a franchise as a whole, it's a mess. So enough of my soapbox there about how they're naming these films, because I even had an issue with it when Scream was announced as Scream. Once again, you want to take the number out, give us a subtitle, but moving on, let's actually dig more into the article here. So it says Texas Chainsaw Massacre will bring back Sally Hardesty. Mark Burnham plays the new Leatherface, taking over from the original actor Gunnar Hansen. In addition, Burnham, Olwen Fier, I believe is how you pronounce her name, from Mandy. I know most of you probably know her from that. Takes over the role. Originally, Sally Marilyn Burns passed away in 2014. That sucks. Like I said, I mentioned it in another video, but it really sucks we don't get to have that cool, even though it was momentary, you had that Jamie Lee Curtis moment, with the original Michael Myers, and you're able to just kind of have a cool moment. You don't really get that with Gunnar and Marilyn passed away. That kind of sucks, but it is what it is. You wait too long to pull the trigger on these things. David Blue Garcia directs the new film from a screenplay written by Chris Thomas Devlin. We kind of know about all this right now. The new Texas Chainsaw Massacre wrapped last year. Plot details are locked in a meat fridge somewhere, but we do know it will feature all practical gore effects. So, maybe I shit on this movie a little too much, talking about the name and how this one really needs to knock the ball out of the park here. But bringing back Sally Hardesty as a character, relying on practical effects more than special effects, I guess, or CGI or what have you. It really does. Those are incredible things to hear from this film, because I always found it interesting how the character Sally, even if it wasn't portrayed by the same person, as we're going to see here, why that character never made a return to the franchise. You have so many successful final girls tied to franchises like Laurie Strode and Sidney Prescott and Kirsty Cotton. You go on and on and on. And all these characters were used more than once. Even if they weren't used in every film, they were still utilized at least 2-3 times throughout a franchise. But that's not the case with the original here. So I'm glad to see that character coming back, and I'm very glad to see practical effects being utilized. Those are definite pluses. Says, plus it also takes place in the present with Leatherface as an old man. Sounds good. I can get with old man Leatherface. I don't have an issue with that. I don't have, same reason I have an issue with a 60-year-old Michael Myers in Halloween 2018. because the person who's playing them is about that age and they're in really good shape and it just looks good and it's believable. So I don't have an issue with that. So it says, in the meantime, remember co-writer director Toby Hooper's original began when Sally hears her grandfather's grave has been robbed. She set out with their friends and her paraplegic dickhead brother Franklin to investigate. After a detour to their family's old farmhouse, they discover a group of crazed, murderous outcasts living next door. They fall prey one by one to the chainsaw-wielding Leatherface, a hulking madman who wears a mask of human skin. The survivors must do everything they can to escape. So yeah, that's pretty much what the article has to say in a nutshell. To kind of sum up, the film does have an R rating. We have to give them props for that. I think we should give them props for bringing back the original Final Girl to the franchise and Sally Hardesty. I think we should give them props for utilizing practical effects instead of CGI or anything like that. Those are things that I think this film, whether the movie is really good on the whole or not, I think those are a few things that are going to be some things to cling to whenever you talk about in the future the merits of this film. And granted, this comes from someone who hasn't seen it yet, obviously, but that's just kind of where I'm at in my headspace. On the other hand, I got to say, I get the titling thing. I get it's like a commercial thing. I get it's a way to draw more people into the theater. I do, but it makes my asshole itch. And I don't like it. When you got 3 movies in a franchise with the same exact title, just like Halloween's done, that makes my asshole itch. This makes my asshole itch. But you know what doesn't make my asshole itch? I'll tell you what doesn't make my asshole itch. Comments. Leave me some down below. Let me know what you all think about the R rating. Of course, some good news. And the fact that it's just going to be called Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Again, while you're down there, it's the end of the video now. So you now know if you like this video or not. So go ahead and let me know. Let YouTube know by leaving me a thumbs up, subscribing, maybe even turning on notifications so you'll be notified for sure. Wink, wink. For sure, when I go live or upload. And definitely check down below in the description section. You'll see a link to my Twitter, should you want to follow me there, or my Patreon, where you could become a supporter of my work. If you go to the higher tier, which is only $5, I think I only do like $1 and $5. But if you go to the higher tier, you can become a producer like Ral the Great, who I'm always going to be shouting out. I think it's a little bit cooler to shout out the quote unquote producers rather than just kind of make an in-screen graphic. It feels more personal. So yeah, with that all said, like I said, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I'm Bran from Bloody Breakdown, and we'll catch you all next time.